So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Kal's Corner radio show here in the X Zone Broadcast Network, or xnbn.net. My name is Kal Korff, and I'm your host. And, of course, the executive producer of the show is the one and only Rob McConnell. Folks, as you know, in every episode of this show, we talk about everything from politics to the paranormal, meaning that's the mandate for the show. We don't always talk about, every subject in the universe, every show, of course, because we've only got a limit of an hour. But tonight we're going to talk about politics, not the paranormal. And let's talk about the recent U.S. election. And let's separate fact from fiction as far as what happened. Now, let's start this off by saying that if you listen to the lame, I'm tongue-tied today, the left-wing liberal media, that's why I'm tongue-tied, a lot of L's, the prediction was there was going to be this blue wave, like a blue tsunami. The American people were going to rise up and practically overthrow Trump and dump him out in the streets. No, didn't even happen. While the Democrats have regained control of the lower house, known as the Congress in the United States, what Europeans might refer as the Parliament, although that's not really the correct term, the Senate remains in control by the Republicans. In fact, they have gained, as of I'm saying this, 3 seats in the Senate. They've padded their lead. And let's say that the Democrats had won every seat in Congress, it wouldn't matter, because Congress can do whatever it wants, but it's the Senate that has to approve it. And if the Senate doesn't approve it, it never gets to the president's desk. And then if the Senate does approve it, then the president still has to sign it. That's the way our system works, contrary to what people who hate Trump would rather have it work a different way. So let's talk about the election. America, of course, is a very divided country now, as I've said many times before, only because it's true, and I feel this way. I felt this way since it happened, and I, like many Americans, observed and experienced this firsthand. I argue that America started to become divided politically when Al Gore lost the election to President George W. Bush. Bush ended up in the White House, despite the fact that Al Gore had won the popular vote, but his margin of victory was very small. The U.S. does not have a popular vote system. There's a very good reason for that. Democrats hate the electoral college system only when they lose. They love it when they win. They never complain, of course, when they win. They only complain when they lose. They are sore losers. In fact, remember when the Democrats during the campaign, when they were trying to, put Hillary Clinton as their candidate, they were saying, that when they go low, we go high. Now, they is the Republicans, of course. So they're saying when the Republicans go low and take cheap shots and swear and use racial slurs and all this other stuff that Trump gets accused of, the Democrats, they're beyond and above all of that, so they go high. Well, first of all, if you go high, then that means you probably weren't high before. You're probably low, maybe somewhere in the middle. They don't talk about that. But no, the Democrats don't go high at all. They're full of hot air. They're full of BS like the other party is, like probably almost every political party is. And now you have Queen Hillary saying, well, we can't be civil until we're back in power. Oh, really? That's how American democracy works, okay? That's how you have compromise. That's how you, work both sides of the aisle, right? Well, the left is so intolerant now that some of the recent stunts they've done is out of one side of their mouth, they bitch about right-wing extremists. Okay, I understand that. It's a valid point. Right-wing extremists are bad people. Extremists, whether they're on any side, right, left, whatever, upside down or backwards, they're bad news. Extremism is extremism, period. Doesn't matter what the subject is. You can't reason with extremists. Facts don't matter. Their mind is already made up. That's one of the definitions of an extremist. And I object to extremists. You know, why would anybody want them or like them except fellow extremists or what I call the ignorati, the ignorant types. So here you have the Democrats saying, whoa, look at these, right-wing Nazi marchers, they're pro-Trump, Trump is inciting riots and so on. But out of the left, you've got Antifa. Now what they've done is they attacked Fox newscaster Tucker Carlson's home. They surrounded it, damaged the door, trespassed on his property. He wasn't home at the time. His wife had to deal with what she thought was a home invasion. She went ahead and locked herself safely in the pantry. Luckily, she called 911. Apparently, his brother came over. Shame on them. Nobody should act that way, just like people shouldn't harass people, period. And I will tell you, in my short life, I've been harassed many times. I've got dozens of death threats. I have sent copies of them to everyone from the U.S. Embassy to law enforcement. And over time, this information will come out as far as who these people were, because there's going to be a reckoning, I promise you. What's going to happen is all this stuff is going to come out. It's been accumulating for years. So what was my big crime that I should be threatened with my life? I can't answer that question. I don't know of anything. I haven't done anything to deserve to be killed. I haven't, okay? That's a fact. And if you look at my track record, these people are upset at me because I dared to expose the Billy Meyer hoax. I dared to go undercover to find the truth and expose these people. I exposed the Roswell UFO crash. My book, The Roswell UFO Crash, what they don't want you to know, they being the conspiracy nuts, shreds and disproves the 24 best-selling Roswell books written of all time. It's all in there. Mine was the first to do it. Mine was the first to expose Colonel Philip Corso. And today there's some bozo who's mad at me because I won't publish or my expose of Corso that's in my book. I told him, go get the book. It's right there. I don't have a copy. My ego's not that big. Go get it. Order it from Amazon. I'll give you your money back if you're not satisfied. Nope, I'm an evil guy. What's my background that gives me the quality to expose Corso? As if that really matters. It doesn't. What matters are the facts. And this is what is the problem with much of the world today. People not only don't recognize facts when they see them, when you have terms like alternative facts being used, and we can thank the Trump administration for that stupid bozo term, then no wonder you can't separate fact from fiction. So, about the election, we must remember that when Hillary Clinton lost, the country was further divided because she won the majority of the votes. According to the Democrats, if you believe their propaganda, and it really is propaganda because it's not proven fact, she won about 3.7 million more votes than Trump did. Well, you can't say that if you want to be honest. And see, the Democrats aren't honest. Neither are the Republicans. Neither are most political parties, or neither are most politicians. Being a politician is not synonymous with being truthful. That's just the way the world is, and that's too bad because voters don't hold their leaders accountable enough. And in other countries like Saudi Wahhabia, you don't have any right for democracy or freedom of speech anyway. They'll kill you. And they recently proved that again with the murder, which was inexcusable, of Jamal Khashoggi. So what happened was the country's divided. Queen Hillary lost. And, of course, the Hillary Clinton, because she's Hillary Clinton, can't, of course, admit the truth. So she writes this book called What Happened. There was no question mark there. It was just a statement, what happened. And she tells you what happened. It was everybody's fault but hers. And because she lied the way she did, and her most offensive lie in that book, which I read, got an advance copy of as a accredited member of the media, she said that she lost the state of Wisconsin because of voter suppression by the Democrats. Well, she might have have blamed the Loch Ness Monster. It would have been actually more factually correct. There was no voter suppression that caused her to lose that state. Hillary never bothered campaigning in Wisconsin because she took it for granted. So, of course, she's never won that state. She didn't win it when she ran against Barack Obama and lost. She didn't win it when she ran against Bernie Sanders and had the nomination locked up. Sanders still beat her, even though he couldn't win. That's how much they loved Hillary Clinton, and she never bothered to campaign there. So, of course, Wisconsin voters are saying to Clinton, well, you can stick it where the sun will hopefully never shine. We'll just vote for Trump. We may not love him. We don't like you either. And what's interesting about Hillary Clinton is her popularity rating or unpopularity rating has remained at about 35%, lower than Trump's has been for years. She was the least trusted politician when she ran for president, even worse than Trump. That's saying a lot. That's special talent, folks. So what Hillary Clinton is, she lied. She cited a survey that was done by Civis Analytics. And it said that voter suppression was likely the cause, a good candidate for why she lost. Well, that study was flawed. It's a fraud statistically, and you can quote me. Many journalists have asked for a copy of the methodology used. The company will not cough it up because it's bogus. Well, what Hillary Clinton didn't tell you in the book was that she contracted that study. Yeah, she paid for it. So guess what it would tell the master who's cutting the check? Oh, yeah, it wasn't your fault. And then she didn't say that this company was actually from Barack Obama, because it is comprised of holdovers from his campaign, people that he had put together under his campaign manager, David Axelrod. They had all these supposed bright people together that got Obama in the White House. They created this company with money from Google. They're like roughly, I think, a 50% investor. And they're pro-Democrat. Their idea is to influence public opinion and push the Democratic agenda, the liberal agenda. That's what they're really about. And that's the company Civis Analytics. And none of this information is in Hillary Clinton's book because, like much of what the Clintons say, they don't tell you the full truth or they outright lie. The reason I know all of this is because it's all exposed and documented chapter and verse in my book called What Didn't Happen, Exposing the False Claims of Hillary Clinton, Volume 1. I may do a Volume 2 and 3. That's up to Hillary. I predict that unless something comes up to stop her, she's going to run for president. Then the United States will even be more screwed. Now, what does this have to do with the current election? Well, after we come back from the commercial break, we'll get into that. We'll discuss the results and reveal some very surprising things. We'll be back after this commercial break.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shaman worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome back to the second segment here on Kal's Corner online radio show. My name is Kal Korff. I'm your host, and of course the executive producer of the show is the one and only Rob McConnell. Now we're talking about the recent midterm elections in the United States. I predicted that the Democrats would retake the House. I also predicted the Republicans would retain the Senate. That is what has happened, and I will be the first to admit that I'm not an expert on this. I've covered the political scene for years as a accredited journalist internationally. I am an American, of course, so when I've worked for other newspapers and news entities all over the world, I have the duties as a bureau chief and a reporter to follow it. I covered the presidential election in 2016. I correctly predicted that Trump would win because I understood the mood of the American people, although I'm on record as saying I don't support Trump. I didn't vote for him, and I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton either, because my standards are higher. I'm being blunt with you. But I had to put up with a lot of BS from my fellow media colleagues, although I respect them, who said I was out to lunch or was wrong or a closet Trump supporter because I refused to believe that Hillary would win. Well, they have the egg on their faces. I don't. So now let's fast forward to this current election, and I wasn't the only one to predict the way the results would go. So again, I figure if I can understand it and I'm not an expert, then those who are experts have no excuse when they get it wrong and I get it right. Now let's talk about the election. Yes, the Democrats have retaken the House, okay? And they have promised subpoenas. They want Trump's tax returns. And, of course, they want to investigate Russian collusion. But they want to do it right this time because they claim that, what Mueller's doing now, although they don't accuse him directly, is wrong, or that the Republicans are obstructing this somehow. That's just pure BS. Do you think that Robert Mueller is being obstructed by the Republicans? No. In fact, there are several people who have gone to jail now because he hasn't been obstructed. But if you look at what has happened, like Paul Manafort and his money laundering and the attempts to nail Roger Stone now, it was for stuff that happened years ago that has nothing to do with the presidential campaign of 2016. In fact, Trump wasn't running for office back then. So what does it have to do with Putin cutting a deal with Trump to rig the election and set up poor Queen Hillary and try to make her a victim and so on? Has nothing to do with that. And I predict, unless something comes out that nobody knows of, that by the time the dust settles on this, they will find no evidence of collusion. That is a call from Trump to Vladimir saying, hey, bro, let's do this. I think instead of what it will be is that because Trump does surround himself with some very questionable types, I still believe that Betsy DeVos is not qualified to be Secretary of Education. She's never even worked in the industry. And I argue that the only reason she's sitting as a member of that cabinet is because she's donated some $250 million of her husband's money from Amway to, the Republican Party. So like Obama, who appointed about half of his financial bundlers to ambassadorships, cushy positions at taxpayer expenses all over the world. And you can Google this. Literally, Obama broke the record on that. That's really what this is it's cronyism. So if I give $250 million to the Republican Party, I'm going to demand a seat at the table too because I paid for it. That's all it is. Doesn't make it right. And Trump did say he drained the swamp, but he never said what he'd replaced in the swamp, did he? Well, in my opinion, he's just swapped different types of alligators. So I don't support the Republicans. I don't support the Democrats. As far as I'm concerned, the Democratic Party left me in the 1990s, and I've wanted nothing to do with them since. That's specifically ever since the Clintons. It was Bill Clinton, not Hillary, although she had some input, when they essentially sold out the West manufacturing to China. You know, it was Bill Clinton who issued an executive order, bypassed Congress entirely, saying it's okay for China to become a member of the World Trade Organization. And we don't care anymore about human rights. We used to use the carrot and stick approach. China would pass some token reform, then they'd get some benefits. The idea was to keep the pressure on them to encourage freedom and democracy. Well, we saw how well that worked out at the Tiananmen Square massacre, didn't we? So here's Bill Clinton, Mr. I feel your pain. And he goes ahead and, says he wants, fair labor laws, he wants fair wage, etc. So what does he do? He kisses up to totalitarian communist China, takes all that campaign money, millions and millions of dollars into the Democratic Party. Remember when he went ahead and held those Lincoln bedroom sleepovers where for $5,000, a check cut to the Democratic Party, you could go ahead and sleep one night in a Lincoln bedroom, have coffee with the president the next morning, and then get your Polaroid taken with him? Yeah, see, that's not peddling influence, is it? Well, that's what Clinton did for a couple of years. Maybe, I think it was a year and a half maybe. He got away with it, only stopped it after people said, hey, that's enough. And I remember working at Boeing, where I had people who quit the company that were friends of mine who told me they're leaving to start these call centers because it's Asia, baby, it's Asia. Clinton is paving the way. And that's exactly what has happened. And when you look at people like Al Gore who say they care about the environment, how they shifted billions of dollars over to communist China and Asia who didn't care about pollution standards, and using the excuse of we're going to just go ahead and, promote green energies and green technologies, here's a bunch of money for them. Well, how's that working out for you right now? China, in fact, is building hundreds of brand new coal plants as I speak. In fact, they're going to have more coal factories now and plants and coal capacity overall than the United States does. So how can they care about the environment when they're doing this? The answer is they don't. But they'll take the billions of dollars or millions of dollars that globalists led by Al Gore types and the United Nations will go ahead and dump on it because it's just an excuse to transfer wealth, and it's shifting to the east. You must remember that Maurice Strong, the corrupt senior UN official who's now dead, he's the one who did this, and he was a mentor of Al Gore. He was a communist. He had property in China. His relative was a friend of Mao Zedong. So, that's what's really going on in this. And what has happened is the Democratic Party, which used to stand for very different things, now has sold out just like the Republicans did years ago. And they claim, oh, we got your back. And yeah, they do care about some issues more than the Republicans do. But I'll tell you why the Democrats drive me nuts more than the Republicans. Because let's say you've got a guy who's just a jerk, and he stands for things that you just find are totally offensive. Even though we all know people like that, and we disagree with them, I can at least respect the fact that they are entitled to their views, however wrong. But what I don't like is when somebody says, I've got your back, don't worry, I believe you, you'll be fine. You can keep your health care plan if you want to. Nobody will take it away from you, no how, no way. If you love your doctor, you can keep it, don't worry. And all of a sudden, after you say, okay, I trust you, I'm going to vote for this, oh, you can't keep your medical plan, have a nice day. That's the Democrats, okay? Remember Barack Obama's promise you can keep your health care plan if you like it? No, that was a lie. He said it dozens of times. It was voted as Lie of the Year by the Washington Post. Kudos to them for doing that. But still today I've got Obama types who tell me, no, he didn't lie, he just misunderstood. BS. He knew what he was doing. He was trying to do what Bush did to the Iraq War, selling it to the American people. And then what did we get with Obamacare? Its launch was a failure. It ended up partially correcting some stuff, did help some people. But then you got the Republicans who came in there and said, we're just going to kill it. Fine. But what are you going to replace it with? Well, they wanted to replace it with nothing because that's what Republicans think. They don't give a rip if you're healthy or not. They don't care. They think you should be able to afford your own doctor, even though most people can't, never will, because medical prices in the U.S. are higher than they are anywhere in the world. They're not really regulated because it's supposed to be free market, and that's why there's a lot of people dying because they just can't afford the medical bill, independent of bad dietary and living style issues. So now the Republicans are going to repeal Obamacare, but Trump promises to replace it with something better. And then what happens? Hundreds of thousands, at least in the state of Nevada alone, if not millions of people across the country, I don't know the latest statistics, only because it's still ongoing, these people get dropped, displaced. Thank you very much, Mr. President Trump. You lied. So you broke your promise at a minimum, probably lied. So I don't support either party, okay? I believe and I miss the old days when the Democrats stood for the right things, and even the Republicans did. You know, look at Republican President Dwight Eisenhower. When he went to Germany and saw the enormous, incredible infrastructure there that empowered Adolf Hitler's war machine, remember the Autobahn, the first huge highways in Europe where Hitler was able to move his armies back and forth and people could drive their cars and relax, and the ancestors to the modern superhighways today. Well, the American armed forces were grateful that Hitler had that infrastructure because it sure helped our tanks get to Berlin faster. But that aside, Eisenhower made sure the highways were built. He made sure there were GI Bills so people could get homes, they could get washers and dryers, cars after the war. The American economy boomed to historic levels. He actually cared if people made enough money, like Theodore Roosevelt did, to survive. He didn't want child laborers. He believed in unions that were decent, not controlled by the mafia, like the Democrats often do, like how they supported Jimmy Hoffa until the Kennedys tried to prosecute him. And even the Kennedys weren't pure about that. They cut a deal with the mafia to try to kill Castro. Again, double standard ethics, which means you're not ethical at all, you're unethical. So I don't support either party. On the other hand, this idea that Reagan was a warmonger, no. Did we go to war? No. He ended the Cold War. A Democrat didn't do that. No Democrat stood up except for John Kennedy and said, tear down this wall. Kennedy didn't use those words. He meant the same thing, that Berlin would be eternally free, guaranteed by the U.S. But under Obama, Europe started not to trust the U.S. commitment because the relations with Russia had been reset. We'll be back after this commercial break.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by rel-mar, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to rel-marzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
Welcome back to the third segment here on Cal's Corner online radio show. My name is Kal Korff, and I'm your host, and once again the executive producer of the show at X Zone Broadcast Network. Here is Rob McConnell. Now, getting back to the election, again, as far as I'm concerned, both parties aren't worthy of support. I don't support either party blindly. I'm not a my party right or wrong type, never have been. I used to support the Democratic Party up until the Clintons, near the end of Clinton's term when I was working at Boeing, and I worked with a good friend of mine, still good friends today, who worked for the Clintons for many years. Sorry, I just have higher standards than that, and so does my friend. And as far as the Republicans are concerned, let's look at the current election, because for once the voters actually scored a small victory, at least in the state of Nevada. I'd have to go through the other 49 states to see if there's something similar here. But Nevada is, to me, a good example of how I hope power of the people, by and for the people, works. Let me tell you what happened in this election. What happened was that there was a Republican senator named Heller who lost the election. So now he's out of office. And what Dean Heller had done is he had promised that he would never support Trump and bump 200,000 Nevadans off of their pre-existing conditions that was going to be dropped from Trump care, which means Trump, I don't care. That's what it really is. And what did he do? Trump called him and said, if you don't back me, I'm going to make sure I run someone against you and get you out. So what did he do? Thinking of his own self instead of the fact that he serves the American people, even if it cost him re-election, he sold out because he's a coward. And I've contacted Heller's office because I'm writing a full-page special on his loss and the election for Daily World newspaper. It'll run not this Sunday, but next Sunday, because India this Sunday, ironically, they had a holiday called Diwali. It's kind of their version of Christmas in the Hindu sense. They had it the same night as our election, so of course they wouldn't run the election stuff. The papers were closed, so all there was TV. But not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, I will have this full-page special. We'll talk about it, but hopefully Heller's office will respond, or at least his spokesperson, whoever it is. I want to ask, how does it feel, Dean, to lose because you broke a promise to the American people? How do you feel about that? Just see what the reaction is. I think the media should be asking that question. But I can't find a single reporter who's bothered to do that. So since Heller lost, which means everything south of Reno, or the bottom half of Nevada, is now red, or blue again. It was blue when Harry Reid was running it into the ground, and his cronyism with the, southern part of Vegas area is a real power in the state of Nevada, let's be blunt. Now the Democrats have control of half the state again. It's back in the hands of the blue party. So who's the person who's now running the show, who will run it soon after January when she's sworn in? Jackie Rosen. Now, who's Jackie Rosen? Well, she's a clone of Nancy Pelosi. Oh, boy, that's going to be exciting. So Nevadans have, tossed out Heller, which was a good thing to do. He deserves not to get reelected for breaking his promise and screwing over hundreds of thousands of innocent, hardworking Americans and just Americans in general. But do you have to replace him with somebody who's a clone of Nancy Pelosi? Because what's happening in Nevada, folks, and it's in the news, is that a lot of Californians are leaving California because it's just crazy and too expensive there. For years now, California has lost more people every year than have been born there or have migrated to there. In other words, a lot of even illegals now are not going to California. They're going to other states, or they're going through California to go to other states. So what's happening is there's a lot of Californians who are going to Nevada, they're going to Texas, they're going to Oregon, they're going to Washington, they're flowing over the borders of their own state, and their left-wing liberalism is coming into an area that's solidly red, and the people don't like it. In fact, what's funny is I've interviewed some of these Californians who are now in Nevada, they've told me they don't want other Californians coming over. It's kind of funny. So let me give you an example here, and I've asked people about this, and it's just hilarious. We'll be showing this later on in X-Zone Investigate series. But in Nevada, they have very different gun laws than California does. In California, you can't even now, thanks to the Democrats, if you want to buy bullets for your own gun that you legally own, let's say you're even a police officer, you can't actually touch the ammo before you buy it now. You have to stand 10 feet away and look at it. You can't touch it. So let's say I want to buy a box of bullets for my gun. I can't touch it. I have to buy the box sealed up, and I have to just trust that everything's fine. And I can only buy so much ammo a month, of course. Now, I do support that. I think if somebody buys 1 million bullets at one time, you need to really see what that person's doing. But independent of that, in California, blank guns are illegal. They've been illegal for years. I remember years ago with my good friend Roy Neal, when we were roommates at Apple Claris, we were trying to do some filming, and we were going to use blank guns. We couldn't find any. We had to get a special permit and license just to rent them from a Hollywood shop. So in California, blank guns, guns that don't fire real bullets, that won't kill you, are against the law, where guns that will kill you are legal. That makes sense, doesn't it? So in California, there are so restrictive gun laws that what they're doing now is they're trying to strangle gun control rights by attacking the ammo and the supplies, okay? Now in Nevada, it's very different. In Nevada, you can walk into a gun store. You can plunk down cash or your credit card, buy a gun. You go through the background check. It takes only a few minutes. Then you can walk out with it, put it right in the holster, and start walking around. It's called open carry. Nobody cares, and nobody's shooting each other, okay? So I see people, they show me, I see the videos, people walking around open carry. You see Google open carry in Walmart. You'll see a lot of images of people carrying, assault rifles, AR-15s in Walmart. Now, I don't think you need to walk around with an assault rifle, even if it's unloaded. What's the damn point, okay? So I don't believe in doing that, but I don't have a problem with people having open carry. I don't have a problem with having legal concealed carry. So let's say I have a legal permit to carry a gun concealed for my own protection, Second Amendment rights, and I'm going to go to California on my way to whatever. Well, my permit is not honored there. I have to avoid that state or not bring my gun, even if I'm going to Oregon where it is honored. So now what's happening is they're passing laws, only because the Republicans, not the Democrats, that will allow concealed carry to be honored in all 50 states. In fact, a federal judge has just told California that the right to bear arms and all that trumps your gun control thing, and that federal right has more power than a state right. So you can't tell people who have these things that they can't do it. I spoke 2 days ago to an officer who's retired, and he told me point blank that when he goes to California now, that when he wears his Glock on his side and he has his ID and his permit in his wallet, he's retired. He's not an active police officer. California can't touch him now. And I think that's the way to go. Why would you take the right away from a police officer, even if he's retired, to carry his gun open or, concealed? What has he done? Why do you have to go after him? Well, you shouldn't. But that's the way California is. If California had their way, nobody would have guns except squirt guns. That's the way it is, and that's wrong. So people see this part of the Democratic Party, and they're just like, what bad drugs are you on? I'm not going to support this. And then, of course, which political party is it that is leading this stupid thing that's destroying our society, known euphemistically as political correctness? We talked about recently in a show about how, if you're a flexitarian, right? A flexitarian is somebody who is a vegetarian but, just has a moment of weakness and willpower and has a piece of meat, God forbid. And then now they don't want to say, oh, I screwed up. I was a weak person for that moment. I went off the wagon. That's what they used to call it, where it concerned alcohol or whatever. So now I'm a flexitarian. Well, imagine if I went into a bar and said, bartender, I promised I wouldn't drink beer anymore, but I'm going to be a flexitarian today and pour me a tall one, okay? Then tomorrow I'll go back being, against alcohol. Well, there's a term for that. It starts with an H. It's called hypocrisy. And so what happens is you find the Democratic Party backing these loopy, stupid things that if past presidents like John Kennedy or Lyndon Johnson, if the Democrats backed that kind of stuff back then, they would never even join that party because it's insane. So you've got two parties that are at the opposite end of the spectrum. You've got Republicans who are far right, too far right. They don't care whether you have health care or not. They don't care whether your taxes help you or hurt you, but they love passing tax cuts for the rich. You won't earn a decent wage that keeps up with inflation or whatever. Look at wages have been stagnant for many years across all administrations. It's only now that they're starting to increase, but of course not enough to really make a difference. So about a little over half the American populace lives at or below the poverty level, and that's been true. Obama hit that milestone because he feels our pain. And if you look at the myth about Bill Clinton and the so-called Great Clinton economy, again, that's just pure BS. The Cold War was over by then, folks. Bill Clinton didn't have to spend the money his predecessors had to because there was no boogeyman Russia anymore. There was no credible Cold War threat. So, of course, the billions of dollars that became an extra windfall went ahead and helped the economy. But it was the Republicans who kept the spending in control. They did work together, even though they didn't like each other. That's not the case today. And if you look at it, that the way things have been going, that now you have a polarization because the middle class is collapsing. It's worldwide. It's happening. The divide between the haves and the have-nots is getting greater. And although both parties say, we're going to help you, we're going to fix this, at the end of the day, they're not. And that's why I can't support either party. So now we have, as a result of this election, what is called divided government. It's formally divided now. One party controls one party controls the other. The only way to get anything done is to work together. Duh, hello. But, of course, they're not going to do that. We'll talk more about this as we come back from the commercial break.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Path Home Shamanic Art School has just launched a new online series of classes, Galactic Shamanism, Art of the Ancients, Key to Tomorrow. In these classes, composed and taught by Path Home founder and director Gwilda Wiyaka, you'll learn practical shamanic skills to support your daily life, such as how to build a medicine wheel to access the power of the earth, perform a shamanic journey, create sacred space in which to live and work, empower your life with totem animals, elementals, and fairy folk, and learn the art of accurately reading signs and omens. These tried and true skills are the key to living a powerful, productive life. Visit us at findyourpathhome.com to see the ever-growing collection of classes and leading-edge information to support you during these times of uncertainty and transition. All can be found at findyourpathhome.com.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by rel-mar, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to rel-marzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on Cal's Corner Radio Show here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff, and I'm your host, and the executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. So in winding this down, we have a situation where, again, America was more polarized than it has been probably since the time of the Vietnam War, when Queen Hillary lost the election to Donald Trump. And then, of course, they're going to get even, right? And now you have this so-called blue wave, which really didn't happen. It's more like a blue splash. And because every seat, 435 of them, was up for grabs in the Congress, the lower house, of course, just because of the number of seats that California has alone, due to demographics, it was predictable that the Democrats would pick up a couple of dozen seats, which would give them a majority. So now you have the Democrats controlling the lower chamber. You have the Senate being controlled by the Republicans, and of course the president is a Republican on paper, but he's not really a hardcore Republican because the Republicans really tried to keep him from getting the nomination, but yet they understand that if it weren't for Trump, they wouldn't be in power right now. So it's kind of a tough love gig. If I were Trump, I'd watch my back at all times from all sides, because just look at that dynamic there. It's very Machiavellian-like. So what happens now is in the state of Nevada, I'm using Nevada as an example because it is one state, despite its small population, that has really stood out, that is a barometer, if you will, of this election. Here you have a state that is being transformed not by its own citizens, but by other Americans who are coming in from liberal, left-wing California, okay? Their population is spilling over into Nevada, to Colorado, to other neighboring states, and of course they're transforming that state. And the Democrats are actually encouraging this. It doesn't bother them if some hardcore Nancy Pelosi supporters happen to leave the Bay Area because they can't afford to live anymore a decent life, despite what the Democrats say. And then, of course, they go to Nevada where things are cheaper. And then who are they going to vote for? It's not going to be the Republicans. And what has happened in Nevada is another layer of this intrigue has happened. Two things. It was very interesting. And again, this stands out. It's put Nevada on the national map, and that's why I'm talking about this. If New Jersey was an example, I'd use New Jersey, but it's not. It turns out that the state legislation is now solid red. So now you've got a blue senator, red state senators. So guess what? Nothing's going to get done, or at least Nancy Pelosi's sock puppet isn't going to get done what Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats want. There's a check and a balance there. It'll be up to the voters. God bless that dynamic. Now, I will tell you that I'm happy Heller is out. Anybody who sits there and cuts and harms 200,000 Americans in their own state while claiming to represent them and cuts them because of pre-existing conditions after bending over backwards and saying, I will never do this to you, I can't do it to you, deserves to be tossed out of office. In fact, I think such a politician belongs in prison for breaking the trust of the people. I believe that some forms of corruption should be penalized by the death. I really do. I think if you rip off the American people for millions or billions of dollars, I do believe that you deserve the death penalty because you have committed a form of treason, okay? That's my personal opinion, and whether you like it or not, it's constitutionally protected. So that's the dynamic in Nevada. Because what Nevadans are going to resist is, as it becomes more blue, as more Californians come over, the last thing they want are these stupid gun laws to pervade Nevada. And, in California, for example, it's a $1,000 fine if you use a plastic straw now. I'm not making that up. In fact, the joke in Nevada is that when you see people with straws, tell your buddy you better not go to California unless you want to go to jail. The way the law works in California is this simple, and you can thank again the Democratic Party for this, the law liberals, in order to protect the environment and save global warming or prevent it. If a waiter gives you a straw in a restaurant in your drink, he gets a $1,000 fine. He can go to jail. Okay. However, if you ask for a straw, then he's supposed to give you some paper cardboard thing. Now, the reason that they do this is because it's supposed to be better on the environment. Now, they're right about that. But let's look at reality here. There are millions and millions, if not billions, of straws every year that get tossed away in landfills in the ocean, etc. And it, of course, pollutes. It's wrong. Polluting is wrong, period. Doesn't matter whether the temperature is rising or falling. Pollution is wrong. Okay, so who's doing the polluting? Are the people in California responsible for most of the straws that end up in the mouths of fish or that end up in the ocean floor as pollution? No, they're not. In fact, their contribution is so insignificant compared to the rest of the world, it's not even a rounding error. So if they're going to really do this law, why aren't they focusing on communist China and India? I promise you, having lived in India, that when they started banning plastic bags, all hell broke loose. There was a quick black market for trash bags made of plastic because nobody wanted them gone because they're convenient. And with 1 billion people in India, 1.2 billion, and another 1.3 billion in China, you do the math, there's 7 billion people worldwide. Guess who's disproportionately polluting and dumping straws and plastics in the ocean and landfills? It ain't people in California. But it's just like the Democrats to focus on that, focus on the wrong thing, not bother trying to work the China, Indian angle. That has to be done at the presidential level, but he's too busy doing other things. So, again, it reminds me of California's water crisis. I remember when I lived there growing up in the Bay Area, the Hetch Hetchy water system. We were told to go on water rationing. We couldn't water the lawn every day because we're supposed to conserve water. Fine. Well, decades later, they still have a water shortage. Why? Even though they're along the entire Pacific Ocean? Because they didn't bother decades later to build a single desalinization plant. Now they're going to have one. Well, big deal. That's mighty brave of them. In the meantime, Saudi Wahhabia, who officially hates Israel, denies its right to exist, and hates the Jews because they're infidels, right? They bought over 24 desalinization plants from those evil Jews, and they don't have a water crisis. And they're, of course, off the coast of some water as well because they bothered to spend the money to buy, turnkey ready water desalinization plants that also generate energy when they, are sitting there. They have solar power, and they also use the motion of processing that water to generate electricity. India is very similar. I wrote about an article exposing India's fake water shortage problem. They have a shortage of water because they don't bother fixing it. That doesn't mean it's a real crisis. It's an artificial crisis, which to me is a crime. When you harm small villages and don't give them drinking water, and you're supposed to do that, you're elected to take care of it, you don't deserve to be in power. India is surrounded by water too. And after nearly 20, I think around 20 years, it took them to finally get their first plant online. I think it was last year they did that. Well, why did it take 20 years? Because of corruption. Why did it take California more than 20 years? It's because of the Democrats, let's be honest. So, again, you have this issue where now, for the first time in history, most Americans are increasingly identifying themselves as independents now. They don't want a piece of either party. And I have been talking to people for the upcoming special, because I have to get quotes for the article, of course. It's a full-page, 2,500-word article. It's a major piece. And as a journalist, it's always an honor to be asked and tasked to write full-page specials because you're given enough space to really get into issues. And I asked a woman the other day, I interviewed her, I said, you canvass for Hillary Clinton because you hate Trump. I understand that. But let's talk about the Democrats. Do you really think that they're going to solve all the problems either? She admitted no. They won't. I was like, well, why did you vote for her? And she said basically it was a choice of lesser between two evils. And that really was the decision Americans had to make. Most Americans were not happy, to be blunt, with the choice of either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. They said the same thing I did when I was asking the question out loud. as a fellow American, out of a population of 320 million people, is this the best that the U.S. can do? The answer is absolutely not. This is not the best we can do. But even though it's not the best we can do, we're making a point to do it anyway, which means it's wrong. And that is where the country is headed today. So I've said for many years, including on this show, and I remember from Prague, telling Rob McConnell that I wasn't going to support Obama, that we would have more chump change rather than real change, like he said, etc. I saw Obama at a speech in Prague, the Russian resetting thing, what a delusion that was. It was a lie, actually. It was wrong. It was just political theater, and it didn't fool anybody who was in the audience, especially the Czechs who understand Russian mentality. Remember Stalin, remember communism, they remember Hitler. They knew Obama was out to lunch on this one. And most Americans now want a third viable alternative. And they're right. We need one, or the show's over, because we cannot continue the way things are. America is now $21 trillion and climbing in debt. And at some point, the rest of the world's going to care about that, because almost every country is in debt. And the show cannot go on. It's eating itself from the inside. And like the great Abraham Lincoln once famously essentially said, that America will never be defeated from the outside, but if it ever gets defeated, it's going to happen from the inside. And Lincoln knew what he was talking about, because he was the president during the Civil War. And civil wars, of course, are when a nation is at war against itself from the inside. And that was his greatest fear, because although he won the Civil War, he was under no delusions that everything was going to work out fine. And then, of course, after the Civil War was over, a few days later, he was murdered by a guy who just couldn't handle the fact that, a Southern extremist, racist, who just couldn't handle the fact that the South lost, John Wilkes Booth. So, of course, he murdered him. So going forward now, the next 2 years are going to be very interesting, because it is war. And the heart and soul of America and future is up for grabs. Hillary Clinton may run for president again. I hope to God she doesn't. Whoever the Democrats put forth, I believe, is going to be essentially another same old, a clown essentially, and it's going to be Trump running against it. If America doesn't change, it will be doomed. It's got to change. It cannot continue. That's my prediction. And it's based on logic, not any psychic powers, because I don't have any. I'm a normal guy. We'll be back next week with another episode of Kal's Corner.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.